Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to NFL Nexus, your home for the deepest dives on the biggest stories happening around the league. And boy, do we have a big one today. We're talking about a massive shakeup in the AFC North, because the Cleveland Browns have finally, moved on from head coach Kevin Stefanski. Look, this is not just some run-of-the-mill coaching change, okay? We're talking about a roster that is absolutely built to win right now and a fan base that is beyond desperate for a champion. This next hire, it's everything. The choice they make is going to set the course for this team for the next 5 years, maybe even longer. So who's it going to be? Stick around because we're going to break down the two leading candidates in what's shaping up to be a real battle for the soul of the Browns. And hey, if you love this kind of in-depth NFL analysis, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. You won't miss a thing.
All right, let's just dive right into the heart of this thing. This question, who will lead the Browns? It's bouncing off the walls in the facility in Berea, Ohio, and it's literally what every single fan is asking themselves. And the answer, it isn't just going to be a name. It's a full-blown declaration of identity. Think about it. Under Stefanski, the Browns were all about a powerful run game and a tough smash-mouth defense. But that passing offense, it just never quite got to that next level, that elite level you need to actually compete for a Super Bowl. So now, the front office is staring at a fundamental choice. Do they think the core of this team is solid and they just need a new offensive mastermind to come in and unlock that final piece of the puzzle? Or do they believe the real foundation, the bedrock of this team, is that killer defense, and the best move is to empower the guy who built it, promoting from within to keep that hard-nosed identity? These are two totally different paths. And believe me, the two guys at the top of the list could not be more different from each other.
So here's how we're going to break this all down today to really get to the bottom of it. First, we'll do a quick look at the situation in Cleveland, just to set the stage for why they're making a change right now. Then we're going to dive deep into Path 1, the offensive innovator, Mike McDaniel, and really unpack why his creative brain is so darn appealing. After that, we'll flip the script and look inward at Path 2, the defensive stalwart, Jim Schwartz, the guy who already has the locker room in the palm of his hand. Then comes the fun part, Section 4, where we put him side by side, a real head-to-head comparison to show you the stark choice the Browns are facing. And finally, we'll zoom all the way out and look at the big picture, what this one single decision really means for the future of the entire franchise.
Okay, so let's start with a little context. The Kevin Stefanski era in Cleveland is officially over. 6 seasons? Done. He leaves with a 45-56 record. Now look, that record on its own doesn't really paint the full picture, does it? We can't forget this is the guy who was the AP Coach of the Year back in 2020. He led the Browns to their first playoff victory in over a quarter of a century. That was a massive, massive moment for that city. But since then, the team's just been kind of stuck in neutral, hovering around 500, never able to make that leap into being a true legit contender. I mean, they had one of the most talented and, one of the most expensive rosters in the entire league, but the results just felt inconsistent, especially on offense. The fact that other teams are sniffing around him now tells you he's still a respected coach. But for the Browns, it seems like 6 years was the limit. It just felt like they hit a wall, They just plateaued. A new voice is needed to get them over the hump.
And here it is, our first major clue, our first breadcrumb trail that points to where this team is leaning. Reports, like this one from ESPN's Dan Graziano, are saying that the Browns front office is prioritizing an offensive-minded head coach. Now, this isn't just some casual preference, it's a strategic mission. And why is that? Well, you can sum it up in 2 words, Deshaun Watson. I mean, the team made this absolutely massive franchise-altering investment to bring him to Cleveland. And after a bit of a rocky start, the pressure is just immense to build an offense, a whole system that gets the absolute most out of his unique talents and justifies that huge price tag. For years, the Browns' identity has been their defense, physical, aggressive, often dominant. But the offense has always been that Achilles heel, right? One week they look like world beaters, and the next they look completely stuck in the mud. So, this reported focus on offense really narrows the list of candidates and puts a giant spotlight on one of the most talked about offensive minds in the game today.
So, okay, if you're going hunting for an offensive genius, where do you even start looking? Well, that leads us right down path number 1, bringing in an external innovator. This is the move you make when you feel like your current system is just stale and you need to blow the whole thing up and start fresh. And the name that keeps popping up at the very top of that list, the guy everyone is connecting to Cleveland, is the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel. If you've watched Miami at all over the last few years, you know the deal. It's just fast, it's wild, it's creative, and it is built from the ground up to create huge, explosive plays. Hiring McDaniel would be a clear signal from the Browns that they are totally done with that conservative ground and pound style. It's a big, bold bet on pure, unadulterated offensive creativity.
This quote from Dan Graziano really nails it, doesn't it? It captures exactly why a guy like McDaniel is such a hot name right now. It's not just about his record. It's about his brain. It's about his ideas. Other teams are just fascinated by his offensive designs, which are kind of the next evolution of that whole Shanahan system. We're talking about all that crazy pre-snap motion, putting guys in weird alignments just to mess with the defense, and a huge emphasis on scheming guys open to create explosive plays. You get your speed in space. See, the Browns wouldn't just be hiring a guy to call plays. They'd be importing an entire offensive philosophy, a whole new way of thinking. And for a team that has dealt with what you might call a perpetually challenging quarterback situation, the idea of a system builder like McDaniel is, well, it's powerful. The hope is that he can design an offense that just makes the quarterback's job easier, creating simple reads that lead to big-time gains.
So let's dig into the man himself, okay? His resume is pretty fascinating when you look at it. He was the head coach in Miami for 4 seasons, and he finished with a winning record, 35-33. The big flashing neon sign on his resume, he took the Dolphins to the playoffs in his first 2 seasons. That's an immediate impact. The flip side, of course, is that he was let go after they missed the playoffs the next 2 years with losing records. Now, if you've ever seen his press conferences, you know this guy is not your typical stoic clipboard-holding coach. He's described as quirky, creative, and confident. He's famous for these wild analogies and his really intellectual way of talking about the game. But don't let that personality fool you. His reputation is built on one thing: results. Specifically, offensive design and QB development. Just look at what he did for Tua Tagovailoa down in Miami. He built an offense that was perfectly suited to what Tua does best: quick reads, accuracy, get the ball out fast. And he turned him into one of the league's top-rated passers. The thought of him doing that for Deshaun Watson, or maybe even being given the keys to find and develop the next Browns quarterback, man, that is incredibly appealing. It's a potential long-term fix for a problem that has haunted this franchise for decades.
But wait a second. Hold on. What if this whole offensive guru thing is the wrong move entirely? What if the answer isn't out there somewhere, but it's been right there in their own building this whole time? Well, that brings us to path number 2. A philosophy built not on some shiny new innovation, but on good old-fashioned continuity. This is the path you take when you look at your team, you identify your greatest strength, and you decide to just double down on it. And for the Cleveland Browns, that strength, man, it is without a doubt their defense. This was a unit that was arguably the best in the entire NFL last season. They were fast, they were ferocious, they were suffocating. And the architect of that machine, their current defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. Promoting him would be a huge statement. It would be the Browns declaring that their identity is, and will continue to be, a dominant championship-level defense. And this, right here, is where the whole story gets juicy. Because while one narrative from ESPN is pointing towards an offensive hire, we have a conflicting report from another super respected insider, Albert Breer at Sports Illustrated. Breer is suggesting that there's a powerful internal preference to keep Schwartz and that dominant defense intact. He's not just floating Schwartz's name as a candidate, he's basically predicting that he could be the guy when it's all said and done. So what this creates is this fascinating philosophical tug-of-war that's probably happening inside the Browns headquarters right now. On one side, you've got the argument to go out and fix your biggest weakness. But on the other, you've got the argument to protect your greatest asset. And that's the key here. If they bring in an offensive guy like McDaniel, Schwartz is gone. Like, gone. You can bet on it. He's too good. A team like the Eagles or the Cowboys would hire him in a heartbeat, making a rival stronger while you create a giant hole on your own roster. That's a huge risk.
So why is Jim Schwartz such a compelling candidate? This slide lays it out perfectly. First off, the hardware. The guy was the 2023 AP NFL Assistant Coach of the Year. I mean, come on. The best assistant in the whole league. His impact was immediate and it was undeniable. Just look at what he did for Myles Garrett. He brought in that wide 9 defensive front specifically to unleash Garrett, and what happened? Garrett had the best season of his career and won Defensive Player of the Year. That is coaching. But beyond the X's and O's, all the reports say he is loved by his players. He's that fiery, old-school leader who just commands respect, and that buy-in, it's already there. You wouldn't have to spend a year hoping a new coach wins over the locker room. He already owns it. And finally, you have that invaluable head coaching experience. Yeah, we'll get to the record in a second, but the fact is, he's sat in that big chair before with the Detroit Lions. He knows the pressure, he knows how to manage a whole coaching staff, the whole roster. Those are lessons you can only learn by actually doing the job.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? For all the good stuff, for all the positives, his time as a head coach comes with this one huge glaring number, this unavoidable asterisk. And that asterisk is this number right here. 29 wins, 51 losses.
That was his record over 5 full seasons as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. It's the number that every single analyst, every fan, and you can be sure every person in that Browns front office is looking at. It's the elephant in the room, and it is without a doubt the single biggest weapon in the argument against handing him the keys to the franchise.
So let's put that 29-51 record into a little more context. Over 5 full seasons in Detroit, from 2009 all the way to 2013, Jim Schwartz's teams only finished with a winning record one time, just once. That was back in 2011 when they went 10-6 and made the playoffs. Now, to be fair, his supporters will bring up a very valid point. He took over a team that had just gone 0-16, the worst team in NFL history. He basically performed a miracle just by making them not a total embarrassment. But his critics will fire right back with an equally valid point. After that one good season, the team cratered. They went 4-12, then 7-9, and he got fired. So the fear, the big question mark, is whether his history proves that maybe he's just a brilliant coordinator who isn't quite cut out for the top job. It shows he can build a nasty defense for sure, but can he build a winning program? That is the multi-million-dollar question.
And that, my friends, brings us right to the core of it, the head-to-head dilemma. The Browns are standing at a very clear fork in the road, with 2 paths leading in completely opposite directions. Path 1 is that high-risk, high-reward swing for the fences on an offensive genius from the outside. That's a big bet on innovation. Path 2 is the safer, maybe more stable choice of promoting from within, and that's a bet on continuity and identity. This is so much more than just picking a coach. This is about the front office planting their flag and deciding what they value most and what they truly believe is the formula for winning a Super Bowl. This is the central conflict of the entire search.
This chart breaks down the choice as clearly as you possibly can, so let's just walk right through it. First up, philosophy. You've got Mike McDaniel, who is the poster child for modern offensive innovation. It's all about motion and speed and scheming guys open. Then you have Jim Schwartz, whose entire philosophy is built on a foundation of just relentless, punishing defensive strength. It's the classic offense versus defense battle. Next, status. McDaniel's the ultimate outsider, an external candidate with zero ties to the current regime. He brings a totally fresh set of eyes. Schwartz, on the other hand, is the definition of an internal promotion. He offers a seamless transition, and it's a way to reward a coach who's already proven his worth to your team. Then there's experience, and this is a really interesting contrast. McDaniel's head coaching experience is super recent, so his approach is built for today's NFL, but it was also pretty short. Schwartz's head coaching days are further in the past, but he's a true league vet who's seen it all. The big question is, has he learned from the mistakes he made the first time around? And finally, and this is the most important part, the key question. For McDaniel, it all comes down to this. Can your genius brain finally solve Cleveland's quarterback problem and maximize that huge investment in Deshaun Watson? But for Schwartz, the question is just as critical, but totally different. As a defensive-minded head coach, how do you fix the offense? His choice for an offensive coordinator would be the most important hire he makes, maybe in his entire tenure. Does he go with a veteran, a young up-and-comer? That one decision could make or break his time as head coach.
So let's just be crystal clear about this. This decision is so much bigger than just who's going to be calling plays on Sunday. This is a choice that will define the entire direction of the organization for the next 5 years. The head coach's philosophy, it trickles down into everything. If they hire McDaniel, their entire draft strategy is going to shift. They'll start looking for smaller, faster offensive weapons. Their free agent targets will be athletic linemen who can move. The whole culture might get a little more modern. But if they hire Schwartz, you can bet the focus in the draft and free agency will stay right where it is, on lockdown defenders. The culture will be all about toughness and defensive domination. Every single decision, from who they sign to what their practice schedule looks like, is going to flow from this one choice. The stakes? They really could not be any higher. When you just strip away all the noise and all the rumors, it really boils down to this one single strategic choice, and it reveals the soul of what the front office is really thinking. Hiring a guy like Mike McDaniel is basically an admission that your offense is broken and you need a radical, specialized surgeon to fix it, even if that means you risk the stability of your dominant defense. On the flip side, hiring Jim Schwartz is a massive vote of confidence in your team's foundation. It's a statement that says, we know who we are, we win games with defense, and they believe they just need a manager on offense to complement that strength. 2 totally different paths, 2 profoundly different visions for the future of the Cleveland Browns. What do you think is the right move? I really want to know. Drop your choice in the comments below. And hey, if you're enjoying the breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button. And so, that leaves us, and more importantly the Browns, with this final massive question. It's a question that really defines organizations, not just in sports, but in business, in life really. When you get to a critical crossroads, do you pour all your resources into fixing your biggest weakness, hoping to become more well-rounded, or do you pretty much ignore that weakness and just pour gasoline on the fire of your greatest strength, hoping to become so dominant in one area that the other parts don't even matter? The choice the Cleveland Browns make is going to answer that question for us. And in doing so, it's going to tell us everything we need to know about who they are and who they want to become. Thanks for watching this explainer from NFL Nexus. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more deep dives all season long. And hey, a quick reminder, you can help support the channel by checking out our brand new NFL-themed coloring books. Seriously, they're perfect for fans of all ages, kids, grandkids, even adults. You can find the link right down in the description below or by just scanning the QR code on your screen now. We appreciate the support. We'll see you next time.